This is an update of the damage from the tornado that occurred on September 16th, 2010 at the Ohio Agricultural Research and Development Center and Secrest Arboretum and surrounding areas of Worcester, Ohio. You'll be hearing today from Jim Chatfield of Ohio State University and
Bruce Cubberley from the Ohio State University Agricultural Technical Institute.
Okay, we're going to look here at a few images that were taken on 9/23, so about a week after the storm, and just kind of some of the view from Research Services Building that suffered a considerable amount of damage at OARDC, and looking out the window across the street at Green Thumb Garden Center and some of the damage as that tornado was moving into the area. Cleanup really began in earnest at OARDC, and but it was going full scale really immediately after the storm. But here, a week later, you see work being done around some of the OARDC greenhouses, and you see some tree removal going on here and turning some of those logs and wood into chips as they're really trying to really clear areas and allow for better access out here where OARDC kind of begins to grade into Secrest Arboretum, and our Crablandia 1 crabapple plot is kind of a staging area now for that activity. Here Ken Cochran is with Mary Beth Breckenridge of the Akron Beacon Journal. There'll be a nice article that Mary Beth does in the Beacon Journal on October 2nd, Saturday, October the 2nd. And here he's kind of showing her kind of what some of that damage is, and he's with Kathy Herms from the Horticulture and Crop Science Department. It's interesting to see the various things, and here just some young trees, some flexibility. You can see that the wind came and they were bent but did not break, and so they're still standing today. So some of those smaller trees not damaged. And just the wonderful reality that amongst the 3/4 of the Arboretum that was not seriously damaged, there was major damage in 1/4 of Secrest Arboretum, but here the Don Redwood Grove is intact, and a nice arborvitae grove that you see the start of to the left and a hemlock off to the right in this picture. But that Don Redwood Grove really wasn't damaged. That would have been another kind of a cruel blow amongst some other cruel blows, but that's nice to see that standing tall. Here, the bee storage barn, you begin to realize all the different people that were involved, but Jim too, and the bee storage barn where he kept a lot of supplies, just devastated. But again, here by 9/25, 9 days after really good cleanup occurring here and kind of getting things underway, and you can see in the background all kinds of different cleanup that was occurring on this Saturday, 9/25. And just going through the fields, picking up glass, all kinds of things so that people can get back into these areas. The Arboretum made more safe. The OARDC areas, fields here is what we're seeing now, being made more safe by just considerable cleanup efforts. And as you can see here, even with this devastation here, the crabapple is still in flight. So that kind of iconic sculpture is there with the Dolgo crabapple. Here we were looking at a property just west of OARDC across Madison Avenue. So this is a Worcester property, and Dave Lonis, who works at OARDC, and kind of seeing what happened there. And you'll notice here, you're wondering, boy, did they make that cut that high in the sky? What a strange way to do it. But as Bruce Cubberley and Dave Lonis are illustrating here, the tree was on the ground when the cut was made, and then the tree popped back up. So they're doing a little pantomime of that. Some charades, some tree charades from Bruce. Now we have some firewood, so things will be put to use. Now this tree here is sheared by what is called included bark. So Bruce is going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here as to what happened to this tree and what a site of weakness on this tree.
Yeah, this is an illustration of like a genetic flaw that some trees get. It's more common with some genera than others, and basically what happens when trees have angles between two branches that are very tight, usually less than 45 degrees, the bark that's between the two gets caught between them as those branches grow, and so there's no wood there actually holding the two together. And as these get much larger, 6-inch or more in diameter, they actually kind of function independent of each other like separate trees. And when you get a strong wind like we had from this tornado, they fail and the branch falls off.
So kind of an example of some of the uses that are going to be put by the illustrations provided to us by the storm, and that Bruce will be using in his classes at the Agricultural Technical Institute of Ohio State University here in Worcester, and the kind of stories we'll also be telling with Ohio State University Extension as we give outreach, some of which will be fueled by things that we see in this storm and some of the things that are revealed about growth rings on trees and the root structure of trees. So we will put this material to use because that's what we're all about, bringing knowledge to life.
Exactly.
This is kind of an interesting picture of a banana tree that a Worcester homeowner who had some storm damage in their yard, considerable storm damage. But one of the interesting aspects here is they have a banana tree that they kind of take in and out through the seasons. But here you see that the banana tree survived. The house probably protected it. But the damage was just kind of a shredding of leaves. So this unusual shredding of leaves that occurred. The plant stayed, but you can see that the wind did hit it. It managed to survive. Tornado aftermath, and so a site that was seen along Secrest Road and other areas here is across Madison Avenue near the OARDC campus in the days following the storm, as people had to take down trees and get things cleaned up. And here just a look. Dave Lonis had an interesting question, Bruce, when he said, I kind of like to keep this tree. What do you think? Is it something I should keep? What would be your opinion on this particular tree behind his house?
My opinion is, the tree has lost more than half of its crown, and now it's going to be out of balance, so there's going to be more weight on one side, and it's going to have some of those problem branches that may fall out. And the best use probably for this tree, if they wanted to keep it, would be as a nurse tree, and then bring in a smaller tree, plant it near that tree, and in a few years after the nursed tree becomes large enough, I'd cut that one down.
Yeah, at this point, you have to keep a lot of things into perspective, and the potential for this being kind of a hazard tree in another windstorm is there. So you have to factor in all those thoughts as you consider whether you're going to take down a tree that still at least partially stands. Here we are on 9/30, and so here a good 2 weeks after the storm, and we're looking at some of the bigger cleanup in the west end of Secrest Arboretum before you go down into the rhododendron alley area. And we're kind of continuing our tree inventory. We have over 800 downed large trees that we've inventoried to their GPS, and there's some nice maps on the secrest.osu.edu site looking at some of the trees we've inventoried. So we GPS them, and we're getting the species recorded of the trees that were lost and their size so that we can estimate their environmental services. But we'd like to get down into this valley, but still a lot of heavy machinery in there, so we're not going to get in the way of the tremendous cleanup effort that's going on with big machinery and really skilled workers down there. But you see that, and we feel that eventually we're going to end up with about 15